Welcome to the next project in the winter project series. This is project number 4. And before I go any further, I should state I'm actually starting this project while we're still working on project number 3, the little half panels. Reason why I'm starting this one is because project number 3 is in paint, and I was out there, shot a segment for that, and started painting on them. And I'm waiting for the paint to dry, and I need something to do. So I figured I could get started on project number 4 while the paint's drying. It's better than standing there watching paint dry. Project number 4, another foam panel, full sheet this time. We're doing more foam panels. This one is also a new project for this year. We are going to do a new pattern, and it's going to be going in the chain hallway in our hunt. Usually the chain hallway, we do a mix of leftover panels for that display. And I thought I want its own pattern. So we're going to do kind of a stone, I'm going to attempt to do a stone brick pattern. It's going to have some stones in it, and it's going to have some bricks in it. I'm not sure if it's going to work out. I'm going to have to play with it for a bit. And then we are going to try something new I have never done before with my foam panels. I don't know if it's going to work. I'm going to try it with one when I get to that point and see if it works. I want to embed LED lights in the foam panel. So when we go to do the chain hallway, I don't have to hang any lights. The lights will actually be embedded in the wall. And I'm thinking about using some regular LEDs and some flickering LEDs, you know, so you have some flickering going off and on the wall panels. I don't know if it's going to work. It's something I'm going to have to mess with. But before I can do that, I need to get the pattern laid out on the panel. And we're going to need to get it carved, sanded, painted, and all that. The lighting will go in after the panels are totally done. Well, it's been a couple of weeks since the last segment, which I do believe was the opening segment. I've been busy here. Finally got around to getting the pattern laid out. And it's basically a cracked masonry wall pattern is what I'm going for. But we got it all laid out. Next step is to actually do the carving on the panels, and for that we are going to use again the Dremel, and I've got to get my depth figured out for the grout lines. In other words, how deep do I want to carve the grout lines. Now on this project, one thing I want to do, and it's a new one, I think I mentioned it in the opening segment, I want to install some LED lights, and I'm going to be installing them in intersections, you know, down each panel. So these will actually be a lighted panel. I've got to figure out my depth based on the LED bulb. I don't want the LED bulb to stick out past the surface of the foam board, because I don't want people brushing them and breaking them and everything else. They need to be recessed in a little bit. In order to do that, I need the grout lines at a certain depth. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the depth to the exact size or height of the LED bulb. I'll carve the grout lines with that. My problem is, and it won't be with every spot where I put an LED bulb, but I'm going to heat treat these panels too to give it more of a rock look. And when you do that, the surface of the foam board shrinks a little bit. So when I get done carving, whatever the depth of that grout line ends up being, once I heat treat it, that space is going to be a little less. I'll probably end up having to indent these into the foam a little bit as it is, because I want them to sit just flush. Oh, there you go. No more black lines. Yeah, I got all 46 panels carved. Now I've got some decisions to make on them. First decision I can just leave them just as it is here and take them out to paint and start painting on them. You know, get the coloring and everything on it. I don't want to do that though. So that idea is totally out. The second thing I could do is texture, which is what I am going to do. I like having the panels with some sort of texture. I mean, right now, if people brush up against it, they're going to feel the grout lines, because I've got the grout lines grooved in. But I want the face of the rock to have some sort of texture. And what I've decided I'm going to do, and I've got two things I can do. I can take my water bottle and my heat gun and go over and heat treat the whole panel. That'll roughen it up and give it more of a rocky feel. Or I can go through and just use the heat gun and water on the outside edges, leaving this middle row blank. But anyway, I think that's what I'm going to end up doing. With an exception. On the middle part here, I'm finding in the paint process, if I leave it smooth, like it is now, I end up having a problem with the paint not wanting to adhere to it very well, and it will start to peel. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to heat treat the outside edges, and then I'm going to take my sanding block and I'm going to go over the middle row with my sanding block. That will roughen up the foam so the paint will grip a lot better. And I can kind of gouge it, you know, do some mild whoop-de-doos in it to give it more of a rock surface, maybe. I don't know. But I am going to run the sanding block over it. So it's going to take some time. The panels took about 20 minutes to carve for each panel. With the heat treating and the sanding, it's probably going to be about 45 minutes to an hour per panel. So it'll take me a couple of days to get it done. Well, as you can tell from the backdrop, I'm out in the shop. And I just got to thinking, I didn't show you my last step. For those of you who've been paying attention to my Instagram account or the Haunted Tents Facebook account, I did post some pictures of it last night. But I just got done today finishing up the heat treating on the panels. So they're all done. I'm out here in the main shop because I need to cut 6 of the panels down to 1 foot. In other words, I got to do a cut right down the center before I can go on to the next step. But like I said at the beginning of the vlog, this is for the chain hallway. And normally I hang 8 or 9, sometimes more, depending on bends and twists and stuff. Floodlights, you know, up in the ceiling, hanging down that people walk, you know, to light the hallway as people walk through the chains. My purpose with adding lights to the panels is I don't want to do any overheads. The only lights I want in that chain hallway will be coming from the panels. Now, I've got several different ways running through my mind in order to do this. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but we're going to give it a try. If not, I'm going to have a lot of patching to do. First step in the process to get these little LEDs mounted in here is I'm using a soldering iron, an old soldering iron. And I'm simply melting a hole in it. I'm starting on the 1 foot first because they're the ones that are out front. On the 2 foot panels, I was originally going to come in here and put an LED at each one of these intersections, which would mean on the 1 foot, that would be 9 lights. On the 2 foot, that's 18 lights. And I was doing a little bit of math, and it came out to 800 and some odd lights. And then I got to thinking that power box, while the server power supplies I have in there for running my 12 volt would have no problem running this. But with everything else I have added onto it, I don't want to overload it either. For those that do LED lighting, most of you know for the 12 volt, 50 LEDs uses 1 amp of power. With just over 800 LED bulbs, that would mean all the panels all together, if I had everything turned on, would take only 4 amps worth of power. It doesn't sound like much, really, you know, only 4 amps. But when you figure I'm running my whole haunt off that box, the majority of my stuff is 12 volt. Right now, when I get all my lighting and stuff in, I'm using probably about 40 amps, 45 amps off of one of the power supplies in there. And then the other one probably has like 5 or 6 amps on it. If I plug this one into that one, you know, hell, you know, it's going to take me up to 10 amps on a power supply that'll do 75 amps. You know, I've got the power for it. My other problem too is I don't know how bright these panels are going to be. I don't want to put in 18 LED bulbs per panel, and if I use all 40 panels, you know, I don't know how bright it's going to be. I am pretty sure right now we're going to use a mix of red LEDs and flickering red LEDs with these. And red tends to be the darker color. But I still don't know how bright it's going to be. So I don't want to overload it. So originally, like I said, I was going to do 18 bulbs per panel on the 2 foots. I've decided to cut that in half and just do 9. And then having them flickering and everything, it ought to be interesting. If it ends up being too dark, I can always add a floodlight, but my goal is not to have any floodlights of any sort in that display, except for maybe in the in where I have the major props at. You know, we usually do a skeleton in a wedding dress and a groom in the stocks, and we do a little mini display inside the chain hallway. You know, I might end up having to add a highlight light in there for that. But for right now, we are going to go with 9 bulbs for every 2 foot panel. And then on the 1 foot, some of them are going to have 5 lights in it, others are going to have 4 lights in it. And we're just going to kind of go from there. And our first step, like I said, is to do holes. Now I've got this one done with the holes, and I'm going to go through and get all the panels done before I go on to the next step. Another stage done. I've been working on half the panels. I got the 12 1-foots and 20 of the 2-foot panels finished with this stage. Last segment I showed you how I was poking the holes, I do believe, using a soldering iron for where the bulbs go. The other thing I needed to do was this here, and I went and cut some grooves in the back of the panel for the main wire feed, and then over to where the holes are, and then the LEDs will stick through there and I can wire them up. Now I went ahead and did the grooves because if I didn't, the wires would be sitting flush on the panels. And between stacking and moving and everything else, the wires would get snagged, and before you knew it, I would have, you know, wiring ripped out of them. So I wanted some way of embedding the wires. So I went ahead and cut the grooves. And I'll get into how I'm going to seal them and attach them, you know, the wiring, in a later segment. But I wanted to show you this here. But for right now, I'm moving the first half of the panels out in the shop so we can start the paint process on them. I still have these over here that haven't had their holes poked in them or the grooves cut. So I think what I'm going to attempt to do out in the shop, I've got to spray a base coat of white and then my main color on the panels. It'll take a couple of days to do it. And I can go out in the morning, shoot my color, come back in, work on those. It doesn't take too long. It took me 2 days to get the holes punched into them and the grooves cut. So, time for another segment. It's been a while since the last segment. You've totally missed out on the painting process. I just finished up painting all the panels. I still got my mess to clean up over there. But we've gone through, did a primer coat, did the base coat, which was the gray, black on the grout lines, green in the damaged areas, and then did a dry brush over the top of them. If you want to see a little bit more information on how I paint my panels, plenty of other foam panel projects up on the YouTube channel. You can go check those out. But that's what we came up with. That's the new pattern, all painted. Now normally, once I get the panels to this stage, the panels are done and we move on to the next project. With this one, no. If you remember earlier on in the vlog, I showed drilling some holes in them. There's 9 holes per panel. Those holes are for LED lights. Now that the painting process is all the way done, I can set these off to the side, and I gotta get into that mess over there in the corner, get my resistors out, the LEDs out, the wiring out, and we're gonna start soldering up LEDs and attaching the LEDs to the panels. Been doing a little bit more work. Been working on the lighting. I just got the first panel done. And that's what the embedded lights will look like. Naturally, it's only one panel, so you can't tell what it's going to be like. I'll get a couple of more panels done, and we'll get them side by side so you can see a solid row of them. I need to run you through the steps I did with installing these. I showed you the holes. Each LED is fitted through the hole. The top of the LED is roughly smooth with the surface of the foam. Some are a little bit more recessed in, some are at a slight angle, some are straight out. You know, I wanted it, so the light would be cast in different directions. So I wasn't really finicky about how I did the LEDs in them. On the back of the panels, as you can see, there's a white mark there. That's caulking. I basically went through, did my connections in the channel, and after I got done, went through and filled it with caulking. That will hold and protect the wiring in. You will also notice right there, that black mark here, that's Gorilla Tape. And that Gorilla Tape is accomplishing 2 purposes. When I first put the wiring in to get to hold it into place, I went and put a bit of Gorilla Tape over where I had made my connections for the lights into the main wire. Just to kind of hold it into place. Then I went and filled the gap with my caulking. I could have removed the Gorilla Tape, as I was doing the caulking. But I got to thinking, if down the line I need to replace one of these LEDs, I need to know where the connections are in the wire. Because once you get the caulking in, you can't see the wiring, let alone where the connections are. The Gorilla Tape acts as a marker. So I know right below that piece of Gorilla Tape is one of the connections for the LED, and I can just cut into it there and replace the LED if I need to do that down the line. But, that's pretty much what we did. I'll give you maybe some footage of the next panel so you can see the wiring and stuff before I cover it up with caulking. And then once I get several panels done, we'll give you another shot with them turned on as well. Past that, we're pretty much at an end to the project. I've just got to sit here. I've got 45 more panels to get to that stage, and it's going to take a week or 2. Okay, I goofed. I got started on the next panel, and I wanted to show you this. This is this is the next panel. It's been wired up, and I just got on a roll. Got it wired, grabbed the caulking, and started doing the caulking. it's like, oops, I was going to video this, and I could have waited till the next panel, and I probably would have forgot. I get on a roll on this stuff. Half the time, I grab the camera after the fact, and it's like, oh shit, I got to do another panel just so I can shoot. You know, so anyway, started down at the end. All the lights are going into the holes, and then I'm bending the wire leads over, and then they're all brought up here and connected to the main red and black wire. Now the wiring, yeah, I did different wires on the LEDs. It's a smaller diameter. It's more like about 10 or 12 gauge. The speaker wire here is 18 gauge, and that's what I use to wire my Honda up in. So I've got everything attached there. And you can see the Gorilla Tape I put over the connection there. And then I just basically squirt the caulking in over the top of it. And see, here's one there. And it covers it in, but that also lets me know, like I explained in the last segment, I have a connection right there. And it goes all the way up. And then I'm leaving about, for right now, about a foot of wiring out the top of the panel so I can make my connections once the panels are installed. Okay, I swear, last segment. I'm still in the process of wiring up. I've got about 15 more panels sitting over here that don't have the lights in them yet. I need to get done. But I've got enough done to show you these. I'll turn that light off. And you can see the twinkle effect on the lights. There's a mix of flicker red and red LEDs in them. And that's basically what they're going to look like in the hunt. Turn the light back on. Now, with this project, with that, as I said, this is the first time I've added lights to panels. And I'm seeing a problem I hadn't noticed. I'll have to take a look at. But, so I don't know what these are going to look like in the haunt all the way set up. In other words, I don't know how much light these panels are going to actually put out once they're all installed in the hallway and everything. So I think what we're going to end up doing, and I'm doing a separate video for it, is I'm going to get the partition panels out. In other words, the wood frames that these attach to. And I'm going to do a small mock-up of the chain hallway out in the shop and install a bunch of these. Basically, it's going to be a long corridor, 3 foot wide. I'm not going to install the chains that will be hanging down. And I'll get these all wired up just as they would be in the haunt. And do a test on them. And I'm curious to see what the whole the pattern's going to look like, both daylight and nighttime. And I want to check the lighting as well to make sure the lighting is working as well. So, and we'll do that in a separate video. After I get the panels done. As I said, I've still got about 15 panels left to do. Probably going to take about a week roughly, depending on real life stuff. Things have been nuts this season. I've been spending more time away from the haunt projects than I have working on the haunt projects. So I'm thinking it's going to be about a week. I am going to get this video uploaded in the next day or two as I have time. So probably from about a week after this has been uploaded, we'll have a reveal video, hopefully, on this project. As to next project, I've still got some foam blanks out in the shop, and I still have 3 different sets or 3 different styles of wall panels I never got around to last season maintenancing. So we're going to continue on, and I'm thinking we're probably going to do the spider display next. That one is the worst out of the 3 I've got that needs to be maintenanced. So we'll be continuing on with the maintenancing of wall panels in the next couple of vlogs. But stay tuned, and like I said, from a week from when this is updated, there should be a reveal video out for it, week to 2 weeks, give or take. So, other than that, we'll see you guys in the next video. Stay spooky, stay toxic.